and then the second one. And then you have time for a 2-minute rebuttal. If you're the respondent.
Yeah. Okay, we're gonna go ahead and get started. How's everyone? How was your spring break? Happy to be back, maybe. Okay, well, I think I know most of you from Hipper Novice, but if not, my name is Orly. I am on the mock trial team, and I am the incoming executive chair of the team.
Hello, I know some of you, I think less than Orly does maybe, but my name is Kyle Hank. I am also on the team and on the executive board.
We also have a third executive board member, Mercy. She is at work today, but she's here in spirit. So the purpose of today's information session is to go over tryouts, talk a little bit about being on the team, and answer any questions you guys have about mock trial or being on the team in general. So hopefully you guys have had the chance to look at the email with all of the information about the tryout and the application, but we'll go over all of it if not. Okay, so we are an interscholastic mock trial team. We have a director who's Judge Weems. She's gonna come a little bit later and she'll be able to say hi to all of you and talk to you guys a little bit, but we're also student-led. So we have our executive board and we do a lot of things as a student team. We travel in-state and out of state. Kyle just competed in a competition last weekend. You're competing again this weekend, right?
Yep.
This weekend, I had the opportunity to go to Waco this year in South Carolina. So we do lots of traveling, I would say, good balance of in-state and out of state. But I think that's a really fun part about being on the team. And in addition to the traveling competitions that we do against schools from all over the country, we also do 2 intra-team competitions per year. So we do one in the summer called VLG, and one in January, right when we get back from winter break, called Deathmatch. Hi, Judge. And those are really fun. You get to compete against your own team members. It's fun, it's comfortable, you know everyone. You're paired with someone that's on your team, and so that's always a fun thing. Speaking of the summer competition, after you make the team, we have what's called boot camp. So for 1 week during the summer, it's typically in early summer, right?
It's gonna be mid-June this year.
Mid-June this year. We, every day for a week, we'll meet at the courthouse from like 6 to 9 p.m. and we do typically one part of trial per day. So one day we'll come in and we'll do openings. One day we'll come in and we'll work on directs. It's a super fun week. It's the first week you get to know your teammates. And then after that week of boot camp, we also go over evidence and things like that. After that week, you get a team, and then we compete against each other in our first intra-team competition called VLG. It's good on your resume. You can get credit for competing in these competitions. You get to meet a ton of attorneys. Every time we compete in a competition, we are provided coaches. So I've had coaches from firms all over Houston. They take time out of their schedules to come and coach us and teach us everything they know about trial and about being a trial lawyer. So that's been an amazing part too.
Yeah, no, that's right.
Okay, do you want to do this one?
Sure. So, what is mock trial? So we do both criminal and civil jury trials. They're usually bifurcated, and they're always bifurcated, except sometimes VLG, the one over the summer, maybe, but probably bifurcated.
If it's gonna be a civil case, we don't bifurcate VLG.
Okay.
And then some tournaments, like the one that you're about to go to, is just damages.
Damages, yes. So generally liability, but if you get the chance to do damages, that's also really fun and valuable, because in practice, you're going to need to do damages. The witnesses can be fact or expert, usually both. And that's important to get used to as well, because it's a pretty different style on how you should handle those witnesses, as well as the information that you're getting from them. And also usually 2 attorneys per side, but there are some competitions where that's a little bit different. So for the actual day of trial, you guys should be familiar with this if you did any of the competitions like Hippard, but you'll have a pre-trial conference, which is important to kind of get to know the opposing counsel. You get to pre-admit some exhibits and sort of just have a foundation. Housekeeping is also very important because you get to set the scene of and the first impression in front of the presiding judge. Even if it maybe doesn't count towards your score of the trial, it's when you decide what's kept out potentially on motion in limines. And again, you just get to sort of show the judge that you know what you're talking about. Opening statements, direct examinations, cross-examinations, and closing arguments are the four main parts. And obviously those are alternating where you have the case in chief for the plaintiff or the prosecution and then the defense.
How many of you guys have done a mock trial competition before? Okay. We should go back. Does everyone know what a leading question is? Yes? Okay, so everyone knows what a cross-exam would look like versus a direct examination? Yes? Cool, awesome. Okay, so when we are picking new team members, we're looking for advocacy skills, we're looking for competitiveness, looking for coachability, commitment to the team. I would say that this is a big time commitment when you are picked to go to a tournament or a competition. You are expected to make it your top priority for that time period. So typically problems are released like 3 to 4 weeks prior to competition-ish, right, Judge?
Yep.
And so for those 3 to 4 weeks, it's expected that this is really like the top of your list. Of course, schoolwork is always important. And when we schedule practices with our teams, we are flexible with each other's schedules, but there's times when we practice late at night. There's times where we practice all day Saturday, all day Sunday. So it's definitely a time commitment that if you're wanting to join the team, you got to know about and be prepared for. We're looking for originality. So when you do these competitions, you're always more successful when you have personality and how you present the case. Looking for team players who will be good team members when you're assigned to a team. Flexibility, initiative. Anything y'all want to add, Judge?
Just be you. The hardest part about doing mock trials, you gotta figure out how to be you while trying a case. Because what you will learn is the one thing we don't want is you to be some version of a lawyer that you saw on television because you think that's what lawyers sound like. That is infinitely not interesting at the end of the day. What is interesting is us getting to see you and how you, as a human being person, would try a case. So that just takes time to be comfortable enough with you.
Okay, so if you read the email about tryouts, you'll see that we are doing tryouts in 2 rounds. The first round is a 5-minute closing argument. Everyone should have gotten the case file if you haven't looked, but it's in the original email and in the reminder email we sent today. So I know almost all of you raised your hand for having done a competition before, but in closing arguments, you want to tell the jury why they should find for your client or your side of the case. You want to tell your story in a persuasive and entertaining way. You also want to give a summary of all the evidence that they've heard throughout the trial up until this point. So we know that 5 minutes is very short for you to do a closing argument, so it's a great opportunity for you to be really creative in how you want to present your closing argument to us in tryouts. You can also, I put this in the email, but you get to assume that all the evidence you would have wanted to use, assume it all comes in. So if you want to talk about something in your closing argument that, obviously we're not doing a whole trial, so you can just assume that it was talked about in trial so you can review it. Does that all make sense? Yeah, so don't make up facts the jury did not hear. Obviously, the jury has heard nothing, so don't make up facts that weren't given to you, but you can assume that things were admitted. And again, don't use legal jargon. This is kind of what Judge was talking about earlier about being yourself rather than being a law student, but Fun fact, jurors have an average education of like middle school. So when you use these big legal words, they have no idea what you're talking about and they also don't care. So it's a really good exercise in using language that everyone understands. It makes you much more persuasive. After the first round, do you wanna do this one? Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
So after the first round, you can be selected to come for a second round of the tryouts, and that is the cross-examination. So it sounded like you guys were generally familiar with cross-examinations, but again, this should be limited to basically the issues or facts in the direct examination. For mock trial specifically, all you can operate off of is what is given in the deposition or any other exhibits that are connected to that witness's deposition. So, no making things up or assuming that they know things unless it's a necessary inference, meaning that, you read this in the deposition and it has to be the case. Like, they're a police officer, they had some sort of training, but it's not a necessary inference that they have special training in fingerprints, for example. The questions, the witness should be generally about the events to kind of explain your argument, and also attacking the credibility of the person is really important. Maybe they don't really have anything to say that supports what you are trying to show to the jury, but you can show the jury how they're not competent and what they said on direct examination doesn't make sense. You also want to be very responsive on cross-examinations. So you should have a general structure of blocks that you want to cover, right? But you shouldn't have in mind, I'm going to memorize, 20, 30 questions that you're definitely going to ask. You don't know what the witness is going to say. Maybe they'll say something that is kind of stupid and you want to attack it more. You want to highlight that. So just be ready to be flexible on cross-examinations. And going on with that, the questions that you do ask, you should know every single answer that the witness is going to give, and they need to be leading questions. So assuming the answer within the question.
Does anyone have any questions about that or about closing arguments?
If you
Oh,
want
well,
to play it.
too late. Do you want to? Oh, I'll go. Okay. So when I tried out last year, I prepared by watching some of the mock trials that are on the Blakely advocacy page. There's also like a million mock trials from other random schools that are on the internet. So I watched a lot of mock trials. I think it really helped me. I think it would help all of you. Read and reread the fact pattern. Cannot stress this enough. Every time we go to a competition, judge always tells us in the days leading up to the competition, read the packet again, read the packet again, read the packet on the plane, read the packet tonight before we compete. There's always something maybe that you're going to look at a different way or that maybe you missed. So definitely be digging into the fact pattern. We really like this problem. We all competed on it in January when we did our inter-team competition. So don't know if you guys have had a chance to look at it, but we think it's really a fun one. So we're excited to see if you guys enjoy it and what you guys come up with. And yeah, listen to your witnesses' answers. Just to give you guys a heads up, when you come in to do, if you make it to the second round, when you come in to do cross-examinations, you'll be cross-examining one of us or Mercy. And when you try out, it will be myself, Kyle, and Mercy in the room, and judge if she's available. And then, yeah, so it'll be 3 or 4 of us. Yeah, do you have a
With
question?
it being a cross,
Sorry.
with it being a cross examination, are we gonna see them be direct examined first, or is there gonna be like a transcript or anything like that?
Nope, just you'll have your the deposition that is given in the packet, and so you are free to organize your cross-examination however you want. Obviously, in a real mock trial, you would, when you're getting up to cross-examine someone, you would be flexible to be listening to the direct examination and then kind of attack from there. There's a lot of you, so we have to get through tryouts quicker, so we're just doing the cross-examination.
And either way, if it was something that they said on direct in an actual mock trial, or if it's in their deposition, you still get to use their words against them, right? So you can kind of attack it as if it was said.
Cannot stress enough to time yourself. We will have to cut you off for time purposes and fairness to everyone else. So time yourself, practice this over and over. I practice mine driving in the car, practice mine going on walks, and I timed it every time. So you got to be coming in under those 5 minutes or 5 to 7 for the cross examination. Obviously, the cross is a little harder to plan for, but we promise not to purposefully use up all of your time when you're cross examining us.
Keep that in mind for any exhibits that you plan to use as well. It takes time to enter the exhibits, although for the closing, you can assume that things have been entered. For the cross, that won't be the case.
Okay, so round one is March 27th, 28th, and 29th. This is all in the email, but we have slots on Wednesday, Thursday, and Friday for round one. And then round two is going to be Saturday, March 30th. So when you fill out your application, we're just going to have you tell us your time conflicts, and then we're just going to assign you. So make sure that if you have time conflicts on those days, to be really specific and let us know so that you don't get scheduled for something that you actually can't make it to. And when you come in, we are going to, for round one, you'll do your closing argument. We will have a brief interview with the three of us. And then for round two, you'll do a 5 to 7 minute cross exam and then a brief follow-up interview with us again. Does that all make sense? Okay. What questions do people have that we can answer? Anything about tryouts or being on the team? Yeah, Landon.
You're doing the cross-examination, are y'all gonna throw out like objections and stuff mid-cross, or can we just go through it without having to worry about that?
No, we're not
No
gonna object to you, because
objections.
that is kind of a dick thing to do.
Like, I didn't even think about that.
All right, let's just be real. We're giving you 5 minutes, last thing we wanna do is object to every single question that you.
Yes, no objections. Yeah.
Hypothetically, could you try out your 2L just to do it 1 year at the end for your
sure.
three? Is that
We-
okay too?
All returning students, 2Ls, current 2Ls and current 1Ls are invited to try out. Yeah. Yeah.
So I know you said it's a big time commitment within like the period. How many different like competitions do people usually do?
So that really depends on the number of competitions that we as a team, as a whole team travel to and on scheduling. So I think, Judge, you'd be better to.
Typically.
Yeah.
Oh, I couldn't see you. Okay, there we go. And I don't sit very well, so I'm gonna keep talking. Typically, everybody goes through at least one a semester. Good years, you'll do 2. Sometimes crazy things will happen, like Gunner or Orlave competed in 3 this semester because they advanced to nationals or arbitration. They competed in January, did one in February, did one in March. Kyle is on his second one for the semester. We just had a whole lot of opportunities this past year. We competed in 10 in the fall and 10 in the spring. It was a budget overload. We overextended the team. I've overextended all my coaches. Can't ever do it again. Next year, we're dropping down to about 6 or 7. So it depends on a couple of things, right? If it's a regional to national tournament, we break to nationals, you're going to another tournament. Sometimes they change the problem between regionals and nationals, sometimes they don't. But routinely, what you can expect is you're gonna get to go to at least one. One of the things we're gonna find out if you make the team is what your schedule looks like, what weekends are available, what weekends are not, because it is a 2-weekend commitment in terms of we get you the weekend before to practice and spar. Like this one was at the courthouse for like 4 hours yesterday because he competes this upcoming weekend. And so he was practicing with his teammates. And then obviously the weekend that you compete. And then it just kind of, we look at people's schedules, we look at people's, we put people who are similarly hungry together, right? I don't know if any of y'all play team sports, but part of the concern is if you're on a team with everybody who wants to practice and work out, and you got that one guy who just shows up and it's like, I'm here, nobody wants to have that person on their team. So I try to put people who have similar work ethic schedules, time commitments together so that you feel like everybody's working as hard as you are. So that, there's a whole lot that goes into how often you compete, right? I mean, you get into this what you put into it. And for some people, they're gonna get a ton out of it, a lot of experience. Network with a bunch of coaches because all of our coaches are practicing judges and lawyers. I mean, I would probably say it's not surprising to me that ultimately half the team in any given year will get their jobs from their coaches or when they lateral after they graduate. It's from people that they met who coached them. Like this one currently works for one of our mock trial coaches who's actually my mock trial coach when I was in law school 25 years ago. The world is
How many like open spots are you trying to fill? Like how many people are you accepting? Or is there even?
depends, we're graduating 14, 12. How many of y'all are graduating? 13, 14 y'all? I think we're graduating 14. We're not necessarily taking 14. It just depends on who all shows up and what y'all bring us. So it's not a 1-for-1. We're not like we're set on being 26 members or 28 members. We also have transfer tryouts that we have to take into consideration in August.
Also, just with the whole time commitment thing, again, it does, like, you should be ready that it is a time commitment, but also you do get an hour of credit hour per competition. So if you do something
We
like
tap
I
out
do,
at 4.
yes, at 4. I think it said 5, but that's,
5,
but it's,
4,
but
there's
it's,
a max.
it is 4.
Or one additional if you're on the exec board.
Okay.
So you get 4.
That
Um,
I've also had questions about people who are like, can I join a journal and still be on the team? Kyle and I are both on journals. We definitely have members that are on journals and do other extracurriculars. I would say yes. To be honest, I'm busy doing journal and mock trials, especially this semester, competing in a lot of competitions. But I think it's very doable if you are a person that can do good time management.
How does that lie about it? It's fun.
It's so fun.
This is fun. I mean, we could say that like, oh, I never did journal, right? So from all the hearsay that I hear from people, it's a little bit of a slog. Looks great on the resume, a little bit of a slog. But if you want to be a trial lawyer, this is where you get your practice in. This is where you learn. This is where you network. And sometimes you get to go to some cool places. Well, not so cool. You went to Waco. You go to Chicago. You go to Chicago, went to Columbia, South Carolina. This one got to go to Paris for like 8 days for a cross-examination tournament. I'll be taking 2 students to Vegas in the middle of April for a mock trial tournament. We go to some cool places. We do some cool stuff.
What else?
Do you want us to come in suits for the two rounds?
Yes. Sorry.
No, this is
Like, I don't
clarifying.
remember if I wore a suit, but yes.
Yes, you did.
Yes. I must
Just
have.
to impress. This is our first impression of you.
Yes.
What would you say to someone who knows they want to do either moot court or mock trial, but doesn't know how to decide between the two?
Good question.
You don't have to. You don't have to. You can do both. We've had kids who've been on all three teams before, moot, mock, and ADR. We actually, so me and the other directors are really good about talking to each other and balancing. So like Malik is not on your team. Malik was on the other agency. Right. So Malik, who's a 3L on our team, was on our AAJ team, but also was moot court, went to regionals for ABA appellate ad tournament. I just talked to the moot court director and it's like, when is Malik traveling? Let me know. And whoever gets him first, gets him. And then everything else we just work to kind of move everything around to be flexible. So it is possible to do both. You can do both. They're different skill sets. I'll say the same thing for anybody who does ADR. Like who's a sports fan? I'm a huge sports fan. I love sports. You know what ADR does? Sports negotiation competitions. I coached NFL and NBA while I was an ADR coach before I took over mock trial. That stuff is fun, right? And you go to New Orleans, you negotiate a real NFL contract, all that stuff, but that's ADR. So it's different things. ADR is a lot less of time commitment than mock trial is, but it is possible to do everything. Like you really can do everything. You just have to know what your limits are, because I will tell you this.
I don't ever wanna hear feedback from one of your teammates or your coach saying, so-and-so doesn't show up, so-and-so doesn't prepare. So if I hear that about you, then I essentially will end up having to think, okay, well then you don't get to compete, right? You don't get to travel because it's not fair to everybody else. You're on a sometimes two, but usually a 4-person team. And if everybody else comes to play and is proactive, and that lawyer who does not get paid to coach you, none of our coaches get paid, is spending that much time with you just to take a free trip to, you know, scenic Sacramento, which is where our team's going this weekend, you gotta be just as committed as they are. So it's basically how much do you think you can do? But I'll also say this, I've had people try out, do boot camp, do the summer tournament and ask, can I not compete in the fall? Or they compete in the fall and ask to take a semester off in the spring. That's perfectly okay, right? But if you have concerns about balancing time, talk to me before you make the decision to not try out, Jed. Jed thought he wasn't gonna try out. He's competed in he's gone to 3 tournaments so far this semester. Wasn't gonna try out in transfers. I like giving people guilt in the moment. I don't let things go. I'm like an elephant. I have that kind of memory. So if you think that you can't do it, feel free to reach out to me. Like seriously, email me. My email is real simple. It's cweems@uh.edu. I don't have any of this CougarNet, Central, it's cweems@uh.edu. Email me like, Jed, I'd like to talk about, I want to try out, but these are what my concerns are. And then we can literally sit down and have a real conversation about what your specific issues are.
Yeah, if you do think you can only do one of these teams, I believe on the advocacy YouTube page, there are like moot court competitions on there as well. So you can look at what each of the competitions kind of entails. Mock trials obviously a lot more performative. You're, you know, trying to convince a jury versus in moot court a judge, right? Moot court's going to be very legal argument heavy. So if you do find just one, maybe that would help you pick which one to do.
Yeah, it's the Blakely Advocacy YouTube page, not the Advocates. Although there are some videos for final rounds there, but it's like the final round of Blakely Butler or John Black, or, you know, there's a final round of all the mock trial, all of our intra teams. So if you kind of want to see what the level of competition you're looking at, you'll see like the final round of our most recent deathmatch tournament or the final round of our most recent BLG tournament, which how many of y'all seen My Cousin Vinny? That warms my heart. It's not enough if you ever see that movie. Love that movie. When we talk about the BLG, it's literally called the Vincent LaGuardia Gambini. It's named after My Cousin Vinny, and we named it our very first year, and it's stuck. And that's how much, if you haven't seen that movie, you actually should, because there are 3 wonderful principles of class that are exhibited in that movie.
And for the YouTube channel, a lot of those are live streams, so make sure you click on the live stream tab and not just the video one. Any other questions?
Can you talk about, this is a little bit more along the lines of what was asked before, but comparing mock trial, moot court, and arbitration, not time commitment, but the style of like skills that is like unique to mock trial, and then just touching upon unique to the other 2 as well.
Anyone else want to cover arbitration?
Oh, it's not arbitration. So ADR is more than just arbitration. Arbitration is actually the closest thing in ADR to mock trial. For any of you who've ever watched or been in front of a judge, or, you know, have clerks for a judge or anything like that, we look at arbitration as kind of like a bench trial. There's no jury, but you're doing all the components like openings, closings, strikes, and crosses to a panel who's going to make the decision. So it's kind of like a bench trial. The other things with ADR are negotiation, mediation, client counseling. So negotiations are literally kind of what it sounds like. You get a page of like, here are the facts that are known to both sides. And then plaintiff, there's a set of facts, defense has a set of facts, and then you try to negotiate a deal. It can be anything from like 1 year when we competed, it was involving a photographer who allegedly screwed up somebody's wedding day, and so the bride wanted a refund, so you have to try to come to some kind of compromise. Mediation's kind of the same thing, except for you also have to involve a third-party mediator who helps facilitate it. Client counseling literally is kind of what it sounds like. It's from the second the client walks through the door. you have to get information out of them, talk to them about their case, kind of guide them, give them some instruction about what the process is gonna look like, what their specific case could potentially look like, that sort of thing. And then there's arbitration, which technically falls under the window of ADR, although we do compete in arbitration team every year. If we get two, ADR gets one, mock trial gets the other one, because I think the skills are very similar to mock trial. That one takes the least amount of prep. The skills involved with that are kind of what I call some of the more squishy skills. If you want to do an ADR tournament, typically you could like literally show up, get the problem, look at it for 15 minutes and go negotiate that problem. Right? It takes a lot less preparation. Once you learn what the skills are, once you learn how to information gather, ask questions, that sort of thing, then once you have that tool, those tools in your tool belt, then actually doing it is really not that hard. The rounds are a lot shorter, right? Moot court is exactly kind of like what Kyle was talking about. It is the legal argument. You're presenting to a judge or a panel of judges. They are going to ask questions. You have to be very, very prepared. Not that you don't have to be prepared to mock, but it's a different kind of preparation. You have to know the law. You have to know your arguments. You have to anticipate what the other side's going to argue. You have to put it out in a very concise manner. But you also have to be prepared when they start throwing questions at you, that you are able to be nimble, be flexible, and answer the question and then get back on track, right? It is a very different skill set because I think, for lack of a better word, it requires a lot more organized thinking, a better understanding of the, not that a better understanding of the law, but you have to know all the law that's applicable to the kind of case that you are arguing. Right? Mock trials is a lot of fun. And I can't express that enough because literally, once you learn evidence, once you learn procedure, right, criminal and civil procedure, you can literally go in and try any kind of case. It takes time because you have to know it well enough in order to be able to prepare openings, closings, directs, and crosses. So of the three, it is the most time consuming. But part of what we try to do in the program is we believe in rounds and reps. You're going to learn more by us putting you into rounds than us just lecturing at you and talking at you, right? I can guarantee you, all of the members of this team, including you, Ugo, I see you there in that hat you can't miss. Fabulous. But I bet you they could all tell you of a lesson that they learned in trial that they are going to remember for the rest of their life. And they will never, ever, ever make that mistake again. Because that's how you learn. But the great thing is, you learn it right now when it doesn't matter, when you don't have a client sitting next to you. And when you get in the real world, because what I see on the bench all the time are lawyers who are coming in, trying cases. You can tell they've never done a day of mock trial their entire life. They're figuring out as they go along, and they have a real live client who is depending on them. Do not F it up. That is the most horrifying thing that I see, and I see it constantly. And that will give you a little insight as to why I spend so much time with this team. It is for my own self-interest to help make it better, it makes my life easier when I'm on the bench, and it lets me sleep at night, because at least I'm trying to help give these lawyers experience before they become lawyers when it doesn't matter. Y'all commit malpractice on this level and you totally F up everything and you mess up. Who cares? You might lose a round, right? But somebody's not going to jail because they mess up. Somebody's not going to get hit for $100,000 because of the mess up. That's why we practice. That answer your question? All three are fun. I've done all three. Be candid, not that any of you asked. I personally don't enjoy a moot court. I did a bunch of summary judgments, and those are painful enough to do it on the bench. I actually really like the ADR, but the only ADR part I really like is sports law comps because I did a lot of those, and I really love sports. But I always come home to mock trial. I did this in college. I did this in law school. I'm a board certified lawyer. Most of the attorneys that work with us are either DAs or board certified. They have a wealth of experience. They come from the DA's office, U.S. Attorney's office, big firms, little firms. I've got lawyers from AZA, Beck Redden, where else? Ware Jackson. Let me put it this way, half of the firms that come to OCIs, we've got either alums or coaches who work with the program, come back and judge. I cannot express enough what a networking opportunity it is to get to know these people because they know you more than just a face on a resume. They work with you. Like my Sacramento team that's about to leave, they've been coached by me and Judge Garrison. 2 sitting district court judges. I've been working with them for the last 3 weeks to get them ready to go to Sacramento. 4 of them are gonna go travel with Judge Garrison and spend 4 days, hanging out with a sitting judge while you're competing, getting to know them, getting advice. I think, one night we spaced up in Waco, and literally my co-coach, Ryan McLeod, is a partner over at Webster, McNair McLeod, gave life advice on why everybody should be a personal injury lawyer for like 4 hours or whatnot. But you don't get to have these conversations with just like, let's have a beer and talk, when you're practicing, when you get done, you go have a beer, you can talk to these people. I have references for most of my mock trial alumni. I'm happy to do it because I've gotten to know all of them. So it's not just, oh, you get some mock trial experience, oh, it's fun, oh, you get to travel. We're building the network that starts your future here on the mock trial team. And I bet if you ask people who graduated within the last year or two when they've lateraled, changed jobs, I got a kid who's going from a student. I have a student who's going from Baker Botts over to ACA Law. That connection was made because of mock trial. I have a student who just left Bories, wants to go to Armstrong Lee Baker. That connection was made through mock trial. It's because it's not just the lawyers that you get to know, but the people that you get to work with, they become your network for when you graduate. If you're gonna spend more time with these people than you could imagine. I mean, Gunnar, Orly, how much time have y'all been stuck together? They competed together for 4 tournaments, and there are 2 Ls. Arbitration regionals, arbitration nationals, and NTC regionals, and we just went to South Carolina for Trials and Tribulations. Hannah's partner, Hannah, how many times have you and Hannah Bowersmith competed together?
BLG All-Stars.
Also nationals. Went to regionals and nationals for All-Stars.
We didn't.
AJ,
Okay. Paris.
Harris.
Yeah, NTC.
6 tournaments in a year and a half, 2 years, almost.
It's nice though when you like get to know the people that you're working with and we're happy about it, yes.
Gunner's in the room.
He agrees, he's just.
I mean, I can't express it. I graduated law school in 2000. I still talk to the people that were my coaches and my law school mock trial teams. When I have a case in places where I know they are, back when I was a lawyer before I became a judge, I referred cases out to them. They referred cases to me. They weren't in Houston. That's what I mean. Like, we literally become family. Sometimes you're gonna love your family. Sometimes they're gonna annoy the crap out of you. But you always have each other's back. And I think that is what I love so much about mock trial and why I spend so much time with you. Ugo, Jed, y'all wanna add anything? Gunner?
Mock trial's been my favorite part of law school.
Wanna expand on that? It was great, thanks.
I mean, like, I feel like coming to law school is kind of hard to find where you're comfortable. And so after I joined the mock trial team, we kind of, it'd be different combinations of people that you wouldn't expect would work well together. You wouldn't think that someone that's like that would be as cool as they are. And so every competition is like a whole nother experience. It's like an adventure. I'm really adventurous. So I enjoy that aspect of mock trial and, just getting smarter, getting sharper. It's been amazing.
Jed, Katrina?
I actually transferred from South Texas, and the reason I transferred was because I heard Judge Williams was really cool. And that was a big factor in my decision. And South
You're already on the team, Jed.
But South Texas is kind of known for their mock trial program, and to be entirely honest, it's not as good as University of Houston. It's very scripted and acted, and mock trial prepares you, especially here, it prepares you for the real world and your ability to think on your feet instead of everything being scripted and rehearsed. And it's a little abrasive with South Texas I currently am, as you can tell. But Katrina's been here for a lot longer than me and has a lot more experience than I am. So she's gonna have better things to say.
You have a whole other year ahead of you. So I'm graduating 3 out. I mean, mock trial's been by far my favorite part of law school. I remember I did Hibberd Novice my 1L year, and I actually really didn't have a great time doing it because I was really bad.
No, but if you wanna watch it, it's on the Blakely app.
Please don't watch it. I have gotten a lot better since then, and it's all thanks to the program. I know that, like, it's a lot. You have to learn a lot of different parts. You have to learn evidence. I will say the best way to learn evidence is not by taking evidence class, it's by doing mock trials. So you all are gonna ace the evidence final whenever you get there, having done mock trial. But like just exposure to all these different parts of trial has been so much fun, and I feel like I've learned so much, and now I don't feel like I'm behind the ball when I'm providing commentary to Judge Weems because I'm clerking for her right now, like about the actual lawyers that are advocating in front of her in a real life courtroom with real clients. So it's just really cool to kind of like see your own development as you learn.
Donna, you want anything?
No?
Any other questions that we can answer before we wrap up? Well, we hope that you all apply, do your application sooner rather than later, and then we can send you a time for your tryout. So definitely submit those. It's really quick. It's like a couple questions, resume, time, whatever, and then like a very brief 250 word statement of interest. So it's really quick. Yeah, and we're really excited and hope to see you guys all at tryouts. I'm gonna check my quantity.